You want to make the playoffs? You want to try to go Gardner Minshew, or do you stick with Jalen Hurts?
I think you make the change. I mean, I think the way they're looking at it right now, I mean, they've kind of got two competing interests here. They need to find out about Jalen by the end of this year, but I don't know that that's going to necessarily happen. And they also are still in a situation here with 4 games left where they're still a playoff contender to a certain degree.
You got your Mac and Mac guys here with you on Birds 365, and we're joined by another astute observer. Well, at least we got 2 astute observers. That'd be Damo and Johnny Mac. Me, I'm just kind of along for the ride. He's doing work these days for Philly Mag. He did it forever for the Inquirer. Good to get Paul Domowitch involved with us. Damo, how much did you enjoy the Eagle game on Sunday?
I couldn't. It seemed like it lasted forever.
Good.
I mean,
well, that third quarter drive, Damo, they took like 9 minutes off.
Yeah.
I looked up. I was like, oh, I better start writing now.
Your Jets are so bad, Jody. It's just pathetic.
In the secondary, they stink on ice.
At least they have the 4th and 5th picks in the draft next year. Although Joe Douglas is going to screw that up. So,
shot on goal score. And as I just mentioned to John, if you weren't listening, in watching that game, and I watched it live there and drove home, and I watched it again last night. Elijah Riley is their second best defender. The Eagles couldn't get him onto the roster. That he couldn't break their roster, and the Jets not only pick him up, they plug him in, and he's their best defender in the secondary. That kind of tells you what Gardner Minshew was working against on Sunday.
Yeah.
Speaking of Gardner, Damo, did you learn about anything about Nick Sirianni's offense with the move to Gardner Minshew, which isn't about Jalen Hurts' ineffectiveness, but I do think it's an unintended consequence and a positive one that you got to see what Nick Sirianni wants to do with a guy who's going to process maybe a little bit more quickly and get the football out of his hand on time. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what Gardner did was, especially early on, you saw him get the ball out quickly, whether it was to the running backs, whether it was to Goddard. But I mean, and he was using the middle of the field, things that, I don't know how much of it they changed, how much of it's just, Minshew does it better than Jalen right now. But yeah, I mean, Jalen's, I think I saw last week his average as far as holding on to the ball is like the 4th highest in the league right now. It's like 3.2 seconds. That's a hard number to gauge sometimes because of the fact that he holds on to that it takes into effect when he extends plays. But yeah, so I think that tape of that game is going to help Jalen in that he's going to see some things he needs to do, including processing things much quicker.
All right, John told me before we punched up that you're the perfect guy to ask for this because you love to do the analysis of snap counts and what plays come off snap counts and the like. Yesterday, Devontae Smith was the 3rd most active Eagle wide receiver. That Watkins and Reagor were both on the field more often than Devontae Smith. That doesn't seem to make any sense to me, except when asked about it, Nick Sirianni said yesterday, well, we were in 13 personnel a lot. Does 13 personnel equate to, yeah, we're running the football and we're advertising we're running the football in advance, and we want to get Devontae Smith off the field because he's 166 pounds? Is that what 13 personnel means?
I guess. I mean, Devonta can block okay, so it's not like you don't want to put him on the field with 13. I have a feeling that I mean, if Jalen, they can't acknowledge right now that Jalen Reagor's a bust because I don't think he is, and they need to get his confidence back up. I mean,
hold on. Let me. Hold on. I need you to repeat that. Jalen, you do not think Jalen Reagor is a bust?
Well, I mean, they've got to find a way to use him because you don't take a kid in the 1st round and a year later acknowledge that. So and the only way to do that is to get him on the field right now and somehow find something positive that he can do to contribute to this offense. Because going forward, I mean, they can't win with just Goddard and Devonta Smith. I mean, somebody else has to catch the ball. You know, when I say he's not a bust, I mean, John knows my feelings clearly on what on the abomination of not taking Justin Jefferson over this kid. But and you know, he made so many mistakes the other day on returns and everything else. But
Yeah.
I still think they got to figure out a way to use him.
Well, Jefferson only had about 180 this week. But hey, they lost. They lost to a winless team. So it's all relative. But I do think, and I gave Jody the Patriots last night, obviously, were pretty run heavy for obvious reasons. And they were using Harry, who was a former first round pick, in that 13 personnel look to just seal the edge. And my estimation there was Devontae. Devontae, you're right, Tom, is a good blocker. He's a good blocker down. I think it surprises people. But to be fair to Nick, I don't want a 166-pound kid on the field just trying to seal the edge. If I'm not going to use him as a receiver, I don't want him out there if I'm just going to run the ball. Is that crazy? Because I kind of agree with him in that aspect.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing the same thing with J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. I mean, he's kind of become a quasi tight end. That's why he's seeing so many snaps, because he can block on a lot of those formations they use where they, you know, so although, you know, I made the point last week, I think in my column for Philly Mag, John, that he doesn't even try. I mean, when they go to 13 and 12, you know, Doug Peterson used to throw a lot out of it. I mean, mix it up.
Yeah.
But Nick doesn't even hide the. He says, "We're not going." You know, they go to 12 or 13. It's pretty much okay. We're gonna run the ball, and I would say that's really stupid, except that it seems to be working just fine. So I don't know what to make of that. But you know, maybe they're saving it for for these games against Washington. I mean, you got to believe there's stuff in their offensive playbook that they're waiting for the right time to use, and maybe throwing out a 12 and 13 will come up in the next, after the bye. I don't know.
The only
Jody,
way you get away with that is if you have a superior offensive line. And right now, their offensive line is playing superior football. Otherwise, you are dumb to do something like that. Yeah. But if you can be that good and tip what you're going to do ahead of time and still out-execute the other team, you're going to have success with it. And that's what they did on Sunday against the poorest Jet defense. All right, Damo, Boston Scott only played 3 snaps the other day, one of which I thought he got away with a blatant pick play on a touchdown pass to Dallas Goedert. I'm sure you've seen the replay by now. Eagles get the benefit of the non-call there?
Yeah. I made the point on Twitter. I mean, it's very seldom that a team goes on the road and gets as many favorable calls as they got in that game, and they got a lot of them. I don't know it'll happen again in our lifetime, but it happened Sunday. They didn't really need it against the Jets, but I mean, there were a lot of calls that went in the Eagles' favor. As far as I don't know why Boston didn't play more. I guess a lot of it had to do with the illness he was coming off of.
Yeah, he didn't practice all week, so he was.
Yeah, there's some guys that I'm confused on why they don't get. I mean, Greg Ward is a classic example. I mean, he didn't even play on a snap and he hasn't gotten. I think he's gotten targeted once, that diving drop in the end zone the other day. But yeah, here's a guy that I thought would play a key role this year with Jalen, because he's so good as a zone receiver, and teams have to play zone against Jalen because they can't turn their backs on him in man because he'll run on him. So I thought, well, this kid's going to really clean up. And turns out the only thing he's cleaning up is whatever they have him doing on the sideline. So,
I do want to bring up, because Jody, and I'm going to give Jody the credit to this. It's been, we know this city and backup quarterbacks and its history. No controversy this week, generally, even with the fan base. I mean, Nick's been pretty clear Jalen Hurts the starter, so maybe he cut off some of that at the pass. But Jody, as he often does, brings up interesting hypotheticals, and he brought up the fact that you're playing the Washington football team after the bye. You're you have Jalen Hurts back at quarterback, and you're really struggling in the first half. And they've had those halves, Damo. Think about Carolina, where they were terrible in the first half, and he was able to come back and make enough plays. They got big plays on special teams, defense, win the football game. These games against Washington are going to tell the tale of this team in the playoffs. If you're down 9-3 against Washington and you've thrown for 25 yards, you want to make the playoffs? You want to try to go Gardner Minshew, or do you stick with Jalen Hurts?
I think you make the change. I mean, I think the way they're looking at it right now, I mean, they've kind of got two competing interests here. They need to find out about Jalen by the end of this year, but I don't know that that's going to necessarily happen. And they also are still in a situation here with 4 games left where they're still a playoff contender to a certain degree. So, like you said, what do you do next after the bye if they're in a game and Jalen's just really ineffective? I think he would have to really be playing poorly because I don't think they want to do that. And I don't necessarily think it would mean the following week that it would be Gardner's job, regardless of what would have happened. Because they need to find out. I mean, overriding the playoffs this year is finding out about Hurts. And I still can see this going to the point where they get to the end of the season and they go, geez, we still don't really know. And they go into next summer with the two of them competing for the job if Jalen doesn't prove he's the absolute starter. I don't think there's a quarterback in this draft they're gonna go out on a limb for. I don't know how many veteran quarterbacks are going to be available that they're going to be willing to trade some of those first round picks for. Everybody keeps mentioning Russell Wilson. Well, I don't see Seattle trading him. Aaron Rodgers, this has never been a team that's go for it 1 year. I mean, they're a sustainability team. They want to build and stay good and hope you win somewhere along the way. I could see this happening. I mean, we get to the end of the season, they still don't know. We go through the entire offseason and get ready for next summer, and they say, okay, we're throwing this starting job up for grabs. Best man win.
Let me double down on the question John put to you that I posed earlier yesterday about the Eagles trailing at half and the quarterback not playing well. The stats are what the stats are, below 50%, doesn't have a touchdown pass, blah, 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 maybe even an INT. Would Nick Sirianni lean on a player like, I don't know, maybe Jason Kelce to help if he's sitting on the fence about whether he should make a change at halftime as they're walking off the field trailing Washington 10-3? Would he lean on a Jason Kelce and go, yo, Jace, is Jalen got a chance to turn this around? Do you think maybe we should go to Gardner here? Do you think he would solicit someone else's opinion with as big a decision as that?
Not a player, I don't think, Jody. I think he would already kind of have a sense of what the players think without going to a somebody like Jason or Goddard or somebody and asking them. I think he would kind of get the vibe just by seeing their reaction to him if he were struggling. You might go to an assistant coach that you might go to Steichen or Brian Johnson or somebody like that, but I couldn't see him doing with a player, and I think it would mainly be his decision. I think he might even bring in Jalen into the conversation, and say, hey, you're really struggling right now, and we got to win this game. I hate to do this, but we're going to make the switch. What do you, and ask for his opinion. And Jalen, who's been through this before, might say, I understand. I mean, this is not Carson Wentz. This is not, you got to watch what you do. I mean, this kid's been through the ringer as far as being benched, and he knows that nothing is guaranteed to him, even right now. He's playing game to game. He says it every week about, the rent due and all that. So, I don't think, getting back to your point, Jody, I don't think he'd have to ask Jason. I think he would have a sense of what Kelce felt, but I think it would be his decision.
It was interesting you bring up Goddard there as well, Tom. Goddard was the one guy after the game who said, we'll go with whatever they decide. He was the one who said, I don't know if that had to do with 6 for 6 targets. But, Miles Sanders got involved in the passing game. Kenny Gainwell had gone away, got involved in the passing game significantly. Quez Watkins had gone away, got involved in the passing game pretty consistently. We know Nick Sirianni. We know what he wants to do. That's 11 personnel. He wants to throw the football. So that becomes sort of a tonic for what, kind of gets him a little loopy, so to speak, maybe a drink or two, say, look at this success throwing the football? Or does he know, look, this offensive line is great. 185 yards. We talk about the passing. They didn't get to 200 without the 60 yards from the quarterback, but 185 is pretty stinking good as well.
Yeah. And two things there. One, they were playing the Jets, and so they have to hedge everything about
that's true.
Performance with that. I mean, you can go back to Jacksonville and look at some games where Gardner looked far worse than Jalen's ever looked. Secondly, I mean, you can't underscore the importance of Jalen's running. Even when he's struggling as a passer, he could carry them against Washington. So, that goes into whether you would be willing to put him on the bench, especially if they're, I don't know if they're, I mean, it would depend on the circumstances of the game, but yeah, I mean, I don't think they're going to be quick to do that because, like I said, going back to the original point, they got to find out about Jalen, and they would have to absolutely believe in 2 weeks that we can't win this game with Jalen, and we got to make a change.
All right, Damo, let me run this one by you. I was listening to WIP yesterday, and a caller called in and said, no running quarterback has ever won the Super Bowl. And immediately Steve Young came to mind, and I said, well, see, I would consider him a running quarterback, and he won a Super Bowl. So I disagreed with his premise. But I guess it all comes down to how you define what is and what isn't a running quarterback.
Yeah.
Paul Domowitch, astute football observer, Hall of Fame voter. How would you define a running quarterback?
Well, you're right. Young found and Young knew he learned as he played to find that middle ground between running and throwing. Because Jalen Hurts cannot have 18 carry games very often. I mean, that's just not going to work. It's not working with Lamar. I mean, you're going to get hurt. So he needs to find middle ground, which is why he needs to improve as a passer. But I disagree with the concept that, what has happened in the past is not necessarily what happens now. I mean, the game has changed. I mean, just look at the completion percentages because of the screens that people throw now. It's not the same as it was back in the day when you might have had better quarterbacks, but they were only completing 55% of their passes. So, and you look around the league now, Justin Herbert. I mean, I could name 15 quarterbacks that can run. Do they run as much or as well as Jalen or Lamar Jackson? No, but they run, and they're capable of picking up a first down if they want to use a design play or whether they scramble on 3rd and 6. So I think you can win with a running quarterback. There are no, I mean, drop back quarterbacks are dinosaurs right now. There aren't even very many except for the older guys.
Wait, what are you talking about? Mac Jones went 2 for 3 last night.
Well, there's
tremendous effort, a winning effort for the Patriots.
Yeah,
Mac Jones is the exception rather than the rule to the younger quarterbacks.
True.
Tom Brady, a pretty good exception too at this point.
Yeah,
but, he's the outlier.
Yeah,
he's the outlier of everything. But you're right. I mean, that's the way the game is going, Damo. Speaking of the way the game is going, we got into this conversation. It's the bye week for the Eagles, a very late bye week. Nick Sirianni is, giving his coaches a little bit of time off, which surprises me. And I went back to our buddy Dick Vermeil because I think he's at the crux of this. You would know better than me, but Dick was the first guy where I heard he's sleeping in his office. He works constantly. He did this, and it became a badge of honor for coaches around this league to wear their work ethic on their sleeve and how much they worked. Where are you on that as far as, letting the guys have a life? There's been a lot of personal issues with coaches because of how much they work. Balance, can that be a good thing with the coaching staff?
Absolutely. I mean, John and Jody, we saw where sleeping in his office got Dick. I mean, it got him to the Super Bowl. It also got him to burnout. I mean, he had to quit in after the '82 season because of the fact that he just burned himself out and spent another 16 years in retirement before he came back. So, I don't. That's not. I've never understood why that's even necessary to do that. To work 16 hours. I mean, you cannot. Yeah, I've been around enough coaches, including Andy Reid, who convinced me that you can get the job done in 12 hours a day, and you can even, depending on where your house is, you can have breakfast with your, come in early, go back home for breakfast with your family, and granted, there's Andy had other problems with his family, but
Yeah.
well, I mean, I've found that, coaches that have told me that you can do, you've got to get some balance. That's the best way to go. And I admired Nick for deciding that's the approach, because I think it keeps your staff fresh, especially with a 17 game season now. And a year, this thing's year round now. This isn't the old days where, after the season ended, everybody got a lot of time off. So I think he's doing the right thing.
Damo, I'm tapping into your years of expertise too. It's the Eagle bye week. Downtime for the coaches. We know downtime for the players. Most importantly is heal up time. That those who have some kind of nick, some kind of physical issue, some kind of injury, that just doing nothing for 11 day, 12, whatever it is going to be advantageous. How much is the mental recharge? How much the guys that you've talked to said when they came back after I just got my head straight. I got away from it. It gave me the ability to refocus. Once I turned it off, I could turn it back on. How much do they actually benefit mentally from the in-season bye?
I think it's very important, especially when you consider that this is a bye so late in the season. I mean, a lot of these young players, rookies, who, they're not. I mean, we've all heard about the rookie wall, and usually the bye kind of helps soften that. This one's coming so late, this bye week, that they really need it, and I think it'll help a lot of these players, especially the younger ones, and certainly it's going to help guys like Kelsey and Miles Sanders and guys that are hurt. You would hope they're refreshed physically. The biggest concern for a coach during a bye week, obviously, is your guys getting in trouble. Somebody that's an important part of your team do something stupid. I mean, as we, John, you guys both remember going back to Niles Bradham, Nigel Bradham, and
Nigel's in trouble again, by the way, Tomo.
Again?
Yeah, he got
What'd he
caught.
do?
He got caught with a lot of weed in his car about a week and a half ago, and a gun, of course.
Remember the famous Jim Schwartz quote?
Oh yeah,
about you keep doing dumb things, people are going to think you're dumb.
Yeah, Nigel. By the way, there's our friend Chris Franklin, I believe, NJ.com got the dash cam video of Nigel getting pulled over, and he was explaining to the cop. He was very affable, and he's explaining he had some bad stock choices, so he had to make some money. So not the best, but Nigel's a good guy. It's sad because Dama, he's made too many dumb decisions. But 33rd team, I want to mention that with Damo as well, with Joe Banner, Mike Tannenbaum, and those guys. Billy Mag with me. Eagles Report is by the numbers every Friday. I do want to, last one for me, I do want to say that go back to this coaching staff because it is the bye week. And when you go back to Nick's introductory press conference, which made headlines, a lot of bad headlines, to now, pleasantly surprised by the staff as a whole. Where do you think they are in their sort of adjustment to the NFL. Very young coaching staff.
Yeah, what's impressed me the most has been their willingness to make changes when they realize that maybe what they're doing is not the right course. I mean, we've obviously seen it with Nick and Steichen with the reversal and towards the running game. I mean, they've gone. I don't know that you can do this long term. But with this offensive line, like Jody said earlier, got an offensive line like this, just feed them. And so I guess you can run the ball 40 times every week and beat just about anybody if your defense is keeping the numbers down. And defensively, Jonathan Gannon's made, he's acknowledged. Yeah, he clearly found out that bend but don't break wasn't quite working and has been more aggressive. I'm sure some of his players feel he needs to continue to be more aggressive. But so the fact that they've learned from their mistakes or learned from things that weren't working, I think is a plus. I didn't have a big problem with the fact that I knew when they put the staff together, you could clearly see their attitude, and Jeffrey Lurie's attitude was, yeah, I know we're not doing the Andy Reid thing like in '99 where he brought in veteran offensive and defensive coordinators, and then the rest of the guys were young. I think he just said, okay, you put together what you think is a good young staff, and we'll acknowledge you're probably going to make some, there's going to be some bumps in the road early on, but everybody's going to grow together. And that seems to be right now what's happening.
All right. So I agree with you, Damo, that it has, for a young staff, proven it has been able to get over one of the toughest hurdles, which is evaluate on the fly and be able to adjust and change, except for Jalen Reagor, who you tell me they just have to keep throwing out there because they got to justify the second-round pick, and it doesn't matter how badly he plays.
I didn't say justify. I mean, justify indicates that they're just doing it for optics. I mean, I think they're in a situation.
No, justify in their own mind is what I meant to say.
Until they get a better receiver. I mean, Watkins is a once every. He's not going to be a quantity guy. I mean, he's not going to catch. He's a guy that's going to beat somebody deep once a game. Or at least you hope. They got to find somebody else besides a wide receiver besides Devonta that can catch the ball regularly and get open. So that's why. I feel they can't just throw away Jalen Reagor right now.
Fair enough. They will be playing the Washington football team twice in the next 3 games. Right now, Washington's 6-6. The Eagles are 6-7. Washington's got Dallas this week. If they should lose that game, they'll come into the last two out of the last 3 games dead even with the Redskins, 6-7, 6-7. The Redskins have won 4 in a row in the season. They would have won. They won 4 in a row now, but that go by the wayside if they lose the Cowboys. But they also lost 4 in a row. The Eagles have been more of an up and down, be able to bounce back from a bad loss, put together a good win. 2 different types of teams, 2 different types of seasons, but with the same potential exact results coming into the first matchup, 6-7 against 6-7. Who's got the better roster?
It might be a dead heat. I mean, I just don't think. I mean, this is my opinion. I don't think they can sweep Washington. They're going to lose one of these games. I think both of them will be close. Washington has a defense that can stop these guys. I mean, they've stopped a lot of teams this year. I mean, they don't have any great players. I mean, you look at their roster, you're not really impressed. Taylor Heineke. I mean, he's Gardner Minshew in without a mustache.
Yeah. Without the personality.
Yeah. So, they've got some, good receivers, good running back, but they're not going to.
Jonathan Allen's having a big year, Tom.
Yeah. I mean, their defense stops people when it has to. I mean, 17-15 wins the last 2 weeks. One against the Raiders that can put some points up on the board, but, since Ruggs got released, they really, can't throw the deep ball. But, yeah, so when they lost to the Giants, I thought to myself, there go the playoffs, because I do not think they can sweep both games against Washington. And if they only win one, I think that's going to be enough to keep them out of the playoffs. So, I wasn't holding out. I didn't think it was a big part of this season. I mean, I thought that finding out about Jalen Hurts was a much more significant aspect of this season rather than making the playoffs, because they're not, even if they make it, they're not going very far. But, anyway, I don't think they're going to sweep Washington.
All right, but let me throw one more past you, Damo, and John, please answer this as well. No, it's a long shot either way. Which one is more feasible? The Eagles go 4-0 or the Eagles go 0-4?
Well,
I'll let Damo answer. I
mean, I'll say 4-0 because there's no way they go 0-4, but I don't see, so 4-0 is slightly more feasible.
Yeah.
But
I'm going to go that way as well. 4-0, I'm giving a 2% chance. 0-4, I'm giving a 1% chance. I mean, neither.
Right.
But
both are very unlikely, but one's got to be more than the other. And I'm with both you guys. I think they have a better chance to go 4-0 than 0-4.
And we may get to that fourth game, and Dallas has no reason to start.
Yeah, exactly. That's why that probably ships it, the 1%. Yeah. Dallas might not have to play in week 18.
Damo, we'd be out of time. Always a pleasure, bud. We appreciate you hopping on board. We'll get you back on in a couple of weeks. Enjoy your bye week.
Thank you. You too. You guys have fun.
Thanks, Damo.
Looks like you're already at the beach, huh?
Yeah, always. Every day.
It's an amazing thing. John and I had separate beaches while doing the show. Tremendous. All right, he's Paul Domowitch. He's John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. It was Happy Threesome here. We'll come back. We'll use a twosome to put a bow on the show.